maybe the hardest part about being an artist is recognizing that the majority of the job is no longer just making work. A lot of it now has to do with thinking about algorithms and recognizing that I can't even submit a website link to show people until I hit 1,000 followers. So if you could help me out and do that, that would be great. And now I want to focus the rest of this on discussing what it's actually like to make a painting. Not the physical techniques, you can watch the techniques, but instead thinking about what I have to do to make a piece. And this actually started over a year ago. I was in Umpqua National Forest in their hot springs, and I started looking and experiencing. So this image started out with a real environment that I experienced, and the hot water, the cold river, the smooth rocks are all things that I have to keep in my mind while I'm painting. And then I have to figure out how to add my little touch to it. In this case, I noticed the burned trees. I noticed how, much like the Californian landscape, the Oregon landscape is just as susceptible to wildfire. And that's not something you want to think about when you're relaxing in this hot spring. The biggest thing now was figuring out how to capture this all in the moment. And with some encouragement from others, this became a good way for me to reintroduce figures into some of my artwork. This is something that I don't do as often because I'd much rather draw a tree than a person. It's just a matter of color mixing and the practice that I've kind of lacked on the practice side of in order to prioritize a landscape. And now this piece is actually oil, but I did it on paper or a really thick matte board, so it acts like paper as far as the way it works. Talking a little bit about the composition and the artwork itself, I thought that maybe non-centered imagery would be the best option and really focus on this background of wildfire. And yes, the person's in the foreground and they're gonna be the main focus at the end for some people, but for others, I want them to be forced back through this V of trees down to the flames. And so I had to think about how to do all that in the process. And this leads to the next thing. The painting is only half the work. I now have to figure out how to market this thing. That's why I started remembering to actually take some footage and remember to record as I paint, which is a challenge at times, and it does get annoying to have to stop working, to pick up my phone, click record, to record for a few strokes, and then put it all back. But I think that's part of learning and growing and trying to understand how to market art through TikTok, is understanding that it's just part of the job at this point. The marketing kicks in, and you want to show people what you're doing without giving away every single bit of advice and every trick that you're using. Not that anything's proprietary, but I don't have time to record every single step without disrupting the whole process. And that's how we get to something like this, where this is 5 minutes of showing you artwork, but most people will have backed away after the first 30 seconds max. And trying to figure out that has been like the side job that I have to work on. That's why with this, I'm hoping someone notices. I do like these oil-based markers from Sharpie. They make some great final touches and details, because sometimes after I've finished it, the oils just don't want to move anymore, and then I go through these markers. They're also way easier for me to sign with than using a paintbrush, regardless of how thin I get the paint. And that brings this painting almost to an end. The work is here, and you tape off these edges. They were used just to keep everything clean, and I'll probably go ahead and trim this off. And then we end with images that can be used. Maybe it's just going to end up in a file, or maybe someone will buy it. I don't know. It's not my job right now to make that decision. I just simply had an idea and wanted to make a work about it.